There we go.
I have the lovely Stuart with me this morning. Thai time, but evening. Mariela, welcome and thank you for joining me. I really appreciate connecting with you. From the moment I kind of connected with you, I knew we were kindred spirits. So we've got some great stories to tell about our calling it ex-vegan, but our journey from veganism back to biological diet. I would love you to tell us a little about. I looked on your website. You've just such a fascinating, and you have obviously had a very rich, varied life. Our coach, artist, writer, actress. My goodness, all these things. And,
I know. My poor husband can barely keep up with all my projects. He supports them, so I'm going to do them all.
Blessed, you know. One thing I just wanted to kick off, because I think the line that you have in your little bio about yourself really encapsulates everything that I want to kind of bring and talk about today, which is the fact that you are continually researching, comparing, bringing trust, this is in your words, and insights to the human experience. I think it shows growth, maturity, openness, the willingness to adjust beliefs, constructs, maybe bust some if you had them, and really, you know, admit to maybe where you've kind of clung to something and then discarded it and started something, you know, that you feel is more in alignment with yourself. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey and a little bit more about just what I shared with you. So, yeah.
Yes. So I guess at a very young age, I enjoyed learning and reading, and I got that from my father. He had a big library, and so I was always, you know, interested in just different topics, and he himself just would always tell a story. My mother was also big on like pushing us to grow and to question, you know. we were kind of raised in a Catholic environment in Catholic school, and yet my mom always said, just make sure you question, because, you know, even in that environment, you know, you're raised as it's the absolute truth and you can't ask questions. And so I always did and got in trouble for it. And that's where my, I guess, curiosity started at a very young age, because I was like, well, I'm not sure this, you know, Jesus said this or God said, you know, so I had all these questions, and I was just kind of, I would ask, you know, proof of it. And there's like, well, you just have to believe. And I'm a believer, but I also like to, you know, see data even at a young age. You know, I just wanted to know more and more and how it came to be. So I just started researching on my own, because those answers were not enough. And I just figured that if I had to find the answer to something, I had to do it on my own account. And that was kind of my own journey of just learning new things and finding new things and experimenting. So I would always experiment on myself. I was kind of, you know, a guinea pig. And so as at a young age, I started numerous diets, you know, just one after another. My older sister kind of was heavier, and I always loved nutrition. And so, and I was, even at I guess 12, 13 years old, I developed a voluptuous body kind of young. And so my older sister was like, oh, you need to be careful. You have a big, you know, booty. And she started us on a diet path, which was so ridiculous, because we were fine, you know. And I say we because my twin sister and I we were always together. And so we were like, okay, well, I guess we need to be on a diet. So, you know, and I've literally been on every diet under the sun. You name it, I have tried it. And I think that is kind of why I could always tell people, you know, oh yes, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this. But, you know, it's something that I had to, you can read it or you can read other people's experience. But I feel like if you put yourself through it, and you can kind of know, okay, well, this works or this doesn't work, in addition to the information that I was always looking out, you know, researching and trying to find out what was the best thing for me. And
okay, so just that little question on that point. Were you fueled more for, is it health, longevity? Was it kind of just getting into the kind of body you wanted? What was your actually driving force, do you think?
I always, obviously we always want to look good, but I've always wanted to find like what I call like the holy grail diet. You know, like what is the diet that will give me everything? Like health, a wonderful mind, just, strong body, where you, performance, energy, like for keeping up with your, daily living. I just wanted to see what was the best thing, that you could possibly find, and that you would be 100%, healthy. And obviously free of diseases, for me, that's a huge part, diabetes and cancer and all that. You're always reading up on that. So I was like, well, I want to find something that, I could do for the rest of my life. And I'm always very 150%. Like I would go years and years without cheating, like having a cheat meal. And my husband was like, didn't you want cake or pizza? And I was like, nope. Like I'm that type of person. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I'm just, it's a rarity, I guess some people might say, but that was always me. So I did things, so when people would say, and we'll get into like veganism, when they would kind of say, oh, you did it wrong. No, I never once, did things. And even in those 6 years, I never consumed any source of meat, dairy products, anything like that.
How old were you when you went into veganism, Mariela? Like how long ago was that?
So interesting.
What drew you into that? I know you said
yes.
It was obviously the health side, and it appealed to you because it was offering cleansing and healing. And firstly, did it actually improve your well-being, health? You didn't come in with any kind of health problems as such.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit more about that. How you got into it? What made you leave it?
Yes.
And so a little bit.
I want to mention, it was funny because before I did veganism, and I want to say right around the time I got married, I started doing low carb. And it's kind of funny how at that time it was still considered like this fad, and there's people are like, oh, it's so dangerous, you're gonna die of a heart attack, and yet I did it for 12 years. I have to mention 3 kids, 3 pregnancies, healthy, beautiful children, all, nothing wrong, everything was fine. And I bounced back super fast right after the other. So you would think, why did she change, right? I asked myself, and I want to beat myself for doing that. However, in that time, and it wasn't due to the low carb diet. From when I was probably 12 years old, I started taking laxatives, and that's kind of an embarrassing topic, but I was always irregular, IBS and things like that. And so I always had to take some type of fiber or laxative or something to go to the restroom. So after that, so when I started low carb, I have been using years and years. I was pretty much dependent on these laxatives. And so at the time that I started researching veganism, I wasn't really researching veganism. I was just kind of like, diet for IBS or diet for, and of course that was the first thing, a lot of it came up. It was vegan diets. And even when I would go to my gastroenterologist, he would be like, oh, you need to have a lot of high fiber and fruits and vegetables. And it's funny because I've been eating like that, even though, for periods of time, I would eat these high fiber foods, and I would always be just very bloated and gassy and whatnot. And so, but I would do it because I was the doctor's recommendations. And so, but it wasn't improving. And so, interesting enough, when I decided to, okay, well, maybe I could try this vegan diet for my IBS, hoping that, it would be the cure for my problem, and so even though I was loving how I felt on a low carb diet and had all this success with my, just eating this way for so long and with so many benefits and success. And so I deviated from that. And so I thought, okay, let me try that. And I did, watch a few documentaries, and, they're like, oh, it's so good for your health, and it'll cleanse your intestines and your everything. And so I thought, okay, that might be the way, so let me try it. So I started it, and I did see like an improvement at first, like it seemed like at least I was able to kind of stop using the laxatives, which I should have done that before, and that would have been it. But I think in my mind, I was like, I need something, like I just was so afraid to leave the laxative because I was like, I'm not going to go to the bathroom for who knows how long. And that was just my mind. So anyway, I jumped in with the fruits and the vegetables, and like I did raw, I did, high raw, to where like in the evenings would be, just cook. But I always just focus on fruits and vegetables, and, very rarely did I eat. I did nuts, but I soaked them and then
Juicing? Yeah.
yes, I
Okay.
did
Yeah.
juicing. Oh my gosh, yes, juicing, sprouting. I would dehydrate all of the nuts and making your own nuts, all those stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard work, by the way. And funny enough, I've always, I want to say I was kind of like maybe lost a few, maybe 2-3 pounds, but then like I kind of gained it back. But the interesting thing is like my stomach was distended the whole time. So I would have to wear like looser kind of shirts. And I never knew like when, because in the morning it would be fine. But then as I would eat, it would just like grow. And I would like, oh my gosh, I need to wear loose. Even though I was kind of, slim, you can see this kind of belly. And this continued. And so after a while, I noticed like, I even looked into like freely like the Roquefort and I, eat all these calories and I noticed that I gained weight. I got and my digestion didn't really improve. And they're like, oh, it's your body's cleansing. You just needed to give it time. And I was like, well, how long am I supposed to give this? Because it just doesn't seem to, it just taking so long and I wasn't, started not feeling as well. And so I want to say after the second year, it was okay. I would have energy crashes throughout the day, which are kind of significant. So I would always have to be eating, like every 2 hours. I had food with me, like a bag, and I would just be like munching on food all day. And it just seemed like, that was my story, eating. And so, and then just like I said, my energy, I would just kind of like fall and like need another fruit or another banana or, and so I, but I was like, well, this is probably, I need more food, and it just seemed like I was constantly eating. I was never full, 100% full. And then as I progressed and I was, 3 years, 4 years, I started noticing just like a lot of wrinkles. And I have a twin sister. And so she was not vegan. She was like, you can be vegan if you want. I'm not going to go down that crazy path. She would always tell me. And I was like, no, you don't know. And I would always try to convince her, but she's like, no, she was just like, you can do that, but I'm not. And so, and then I moved away. Since I got married, we lived in Houston. Then we lived back in the border where I'm from in El Paso, Texas, and Guadalajara, Mexico, and that's where I kind of grew up. And so, and then I moved to Chicago for my son's soccer, and so we all moved there. And so I would just kind of come over every 6 months, maybe. So every time I would come and see her, my mom was like, moms, you gotta love them because they're so honest. She's like, well, Mariela, I have to tell you, you're looking like really wrinkly. You're aging really fast. And your twin, look at your skin, and your hair is like just dry. And she's like, did you wash your hair today? And Mom, I washed my hair. She's like, it looks bad. Like, what's wrong with your hair? Like, you used to have this shiny, silky hair, and I don't know this hair. Like,
yeah.
And me, yeah. I knew more than my mother, right? So I was like, Mom, no, like it's fine, So I was like, okay, let me supplement. So I had to start supplementing because I was like, I had to do something, like literally like wrinkles in places that I want to say 50-year-olders, and I have a 50-year-old sister who did not wrinkle like that. And like I started having to follow like my eyes, around my eyes, pretty, like my structure.
Yeah. That's common. That sort of I got that look as well. Can I just interject for a second? I was just going to ask you if when you first went into the veganism and you still had distension and bloating and the IBS symptoms, what actually kept you on it? Did you have initially some kind of relief? Because there has to be something that's, if it starts off being totally not pleasurable at all, or not giving you kind of tend to draw back, particularly since you were keto to begin with, and you had that, the tummy was flatter and you felt not just tummy flatter, but you didn't have the pains and the bloating and the gases and all that going on. So I'm just curious as to what kept you on that diet. Were you just kind of thinking, I have to do it, find out the right formula for me?
Yes, I was kind of like, I need to find, because I would go on these groups and I would follow other vegans, and I'm like, well, I don't feel as good. They're like, oh no, give it time. You just have to let your body heal. And I'm like, this is a lot of years for my body to heal. And then obviously you adopt this vegan label, right? You had so many friends that are vegan and groups, and you're almost like, on the inside, you're like, well, this isn't working. And yet you're like, how am I going to just, pull out of this without, I don't know, being hated, but because I had I started getting some following from, social media and things like that. And had friends, and I would tell everybody, oh, how great the vegan diet was. And yet I was not reaping those benefits of this lifestyle. And so finally, okay, so and it's kind of a hard topic because I ended up having almost like a mental breakdown. This continued to kind of get worse. I started getting very depressed, which never in my life have I been depressed. I am always just like this very cheery, happy person. And I started fighting with my husband for really no reason. And he was, we've been married for 15 and a half years. And so during those vegan years, especially the last 3,
You there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we lost you, dropped out. So we'll just, yeah.
I was just saying that in during those last 3 years of veganism, I started fighting a lot with him, being depressed.
How many years all up were you were doing the vegan?
6-ish, 6.5.
Wow.
So, and I mean, many people are like, well, that's not a lot. I know people, but for me, it just really quickly, I declined. And so the last 3, it really took a downward spiral because, like I said, I was getting very depressed, fighting with my husband and crying and having these mental outbursts in front of my children. And I'm crying and I did not know who this person was, and my children were kind of scared of me. They're like, we don't understand what was happening. I was just like a roller coaster. My husband's like, you need to do something for you. We don't know what's happening. Obviously you never question your diet that this is what's affecting it until I got hospitalized. And so, that was my turning point because I was like, when I came out of this and I see my family, my children, my husband, and they're just so worried about me. And I was like, what happened to me? What happened to me? This is not me. My mind and I was always just foggy. I had to start drinking coffee because I couldn't, I'm a bilingual speech language pathologist. So I have to write a lot of reports and assess children and people and everything. And so my a lot of, it could be 12-page report. I had such a hard time keeping up with the demands of my job, which before I was able to just do it easily. And it's I couldn't think. I was in a fog. It started just really, really bad. I started missing work a lot and having migraines. And then just just feeling really, really bad. And so, and then I was at that moment I said, okay, enough is enough. And it's funny, I didn't do it right away. It still took me a few months. I started incorporating tofu and beans and things it was just so hard to just say, okay, this is not working.
Yeah. Did you have any blood work done, or were your husband perhaps saying perhaps you're anemic, or did that kind of come into the equation?
Always anemic. Was always anemic, and there were several times when I did go to the doctor and with my stomach, they're like, well, I don't know. We don't know what it is. And they're, of course they kept recommending the same thing or medication. And I was like, well, I don't want to take medication. And then with migraines, they're like, I had to take a medicine every day. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So it just seemed like the doctors were, a lot of them would even, a few of them recommended the plant-based, but I was like, well, I'm already on that and it's still not, so, and they're like, well, it's medicine, but I didn't want to go that route. And so it took me finally to this past summer, 2018, around June. And it was the last time I went home again. And that was kind of the last time I saw my sister again, and from December to here. And so, I had so happy that I was out of the hospital and all that. And then, finally my mom said, look, I love you. You're my daughter and I love your twin, and we were going to support you. But she said, you just look unhealthy. You're just, and I had moments where I could be really, really fat, well, not fat, but I would gain and to look like I wanted, I had to really limit my calories because it's all sugars and carbs. And so
yeah.
I learned that I don't metabolize them very well. And and so I had these moments where, and I would just look like really skinny, and my hair, my face, my health, and then just this last mental. She's like, I don't know if this is the best thing for you. You just have to question yourself. I'm your mom. You can decide to do this if you want, but just think about it. And that's mother's wisdom, right? And so I just thought about it, and I was like, you know what, this is, I have to end it. And so it's funny because I started eating meat. I started with fish. And what I did is that I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to low carb. I knew this worked. And now there had so much more research and so much just more information. And so I delved in. And so I started like maybe for a week as a vegan. Imagine that, low carb vegan. But I was like, nope, this is not going to work. So I started eating fish. And instantly it was as if my mood just improved like tenfold. And I had forgotten how good I could feel. Like I didn't know where I was, like in the darkness almost, you know, and every time I started just to feed my body in, you know, a day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, a month, it was as if I was reborn. I was feeding my body.
Yeah, right.
It was just joyful. It was very happy.
Just wanted to ask you something too. Besides your mother kind of bringing it to your attention, were you getting signals within your own body that you feel you could have been overriding? Because you were kind of clinging to the ideology that it was plant-based was the
all the time
healthiest. Yeah.
Yes, because
so your body was actually sending you messages. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because I was still constipated. I had this distended stomach, migraines. I felt bad. I felt depressed. You know, I even had suicidal thoughts, and I had never in my life once thought of that. Like I said, it was this that I did not recognize. And I had the
sleep disturbance.
Oh my gosh. That was another issue. I had very light sleep. It was like I would go to sleep and I had to start taking melatonin because it still didn't improve. And that was crazy. I started, you know, magnesium and, you know, all these things that reading up, I need to sleep in. I was always tired. And I would go to work and like I had these like dark circles under my eyes and must look horrible, you know, and putting all this makeup over it. And yet I was still concealing that and not really, I had the signs and I'm a very intuitive person. And yet I would not, I knew it on the deepest level of my soul. And yet it was hard for me to detach from the label, this stupid label that I was just so attached to. And because it was, you know, the bad thing about labels is you get so attached to them and you don't want to depart from them. Even when you realize that it's not working for you and that you might be wrong. And you're like, well, we're going to say, and there's a point where I said, you know what is a label for if it's destroying the very thing that I am trying to attain? And that was the one thing that just, I kept thinking. And then I thought, you know what, I have to love myself first because I have 3 children and a husband, a family, you know, and a wonderful, you know, my mom, my sisters, and, you know, this wonderful family I have behind me and have always been there for me. And I know they would want to have me for a lot of years. And
so at that time, the vegan kind of ideology was also clinging to you and making you kind of reconsider. That had come more into the equation as opposed to, well, my health is suffering, but I really identify as a vegan. I love the term like trans vegan. I feel vegan inside because sure, you know, none of us like to see what's going on with the factory farming because that's what they actually focus on.
Yes.
And then that starts to become a force that allows you to kind of stick to something that's not, it's actually breaking you down, your body down. Yes. So was that was a battle kind of thing going mentally for you at all? Yeah.
Yes, it was a battle because
it's difficult.
I believed all that propaganda and all that, you know, really pseudoscience because really it's not really, you know, if you really look at cultures over the world, there's not one culture that has been vegan 100% for over a long period of time. And yet I knew this. And so, but I'm like, well, maybe this is, I don't know. It was like I was brainwashed. Felt like I was a zombie. And my husband is funny because I never made my kids vegan, thank God. And so, because I know there's a lot of vegans who force this diet on children. And so that I knew I could not do. And of course I had veggies and fruits for them. I said, but my husband's like, no, they will eat meat. And when they're older, if they want to be vegan, whatever, that's fine, but they're not. And I would never enforce it on them anyway. And they ate meat and eggs, and thank God it was just me because I know I've seen a lot of cases, and I knew at least that's something that I wasn't sure about. And that's funny because if you're not really sure about, then I knew on a deeper level that I might be wrong. And so when I admitted it, and I said, kind of like, you look in this mirror, and you're in the mirror, and you're just like, you know what, you are wrong. You have to stop. You have to change. And that's about growth. You have to leave kind of like, this cocoon that I had built and just get out of it and fly, because I just felt that I was just stuck in this place.
Mm-hmm.
And
so tell us how you actually, keep just that transition. So you started off with fish, you went on, and of course we want to get around to what you're actually eating now, because you've kind of, the pendulum swung the other way, and I'd love to hear about your healing and what's taken place with that.
So at first I adopted keto, and because it was very similar to low carb, and it's so funny, I always ate vegetables because, you think that they're so good for you and all that, and yet even at keto, it was still like, I want to say like a 30% improvement in my IBS and how I was feeling. But, and I still had like nuts and seeds and things like that. And so avocados, and I like my IBS hadn't resolved completely. So I was like, well, I was definitely giving it time, and I had to supplement with digestive enzymes because not many people know this, but if you're vegan for long periods of time, you will lose the enzymes to digest protein and all things, and you don't know the worst damage that you're causing. And I was like, oh my God. So here I am trying to rebuild my gut, which, I'm like, it's fine. I will do whatever I have to heal it in 6 months, a year, whatever, how long it takes, and so here I am, taking these supplements because I do need them, and so, and yet, I understood that it took time, but I was like, well, I noticed like when I would eat like certain vegetables, like, I would get just really bloated, and even nuts and seeds, and my energy was still kind of a little bit variable, but like the veggies was a big one. And I was like, well, I wonder, if it's this, and something my mom's like, well, yeah, you just eat broccoli. Like, how's your, like, mothers always know. And I'm like, she's like, maybe stop eating so much broccoli or so much of this. That's definitely going to give you some gas. And I was like, well, so I was reading a lot, and there's this physician, and I believe he's a GI doctor, and he does a lot of research and on GI and IBS issues. And so it was very interesting. I saw one of his lectures about how people with IBS, that there's 3 control groups: one that had high fiber diet, one that was like medium range fiber diet, and then one was 0 fiber. And the first, there's after, the lapse of the study, that I forgot how long it was, but the first group that had all of the fiber still had all the IBS symptoms. So gas, bloating, constipation, blood in their stomach, pain, swelling, all that. The middle one had less, and the last group with no fiber had 0. All of their symptoms improved, and I was like, oh my gosh, like. So it got me thinking, and he, he does a lot of, so I started looking at all of his studies, because that was one issue that I knew I had to find, like, what was going to heal me, and so I was like, you know what, there's something to this. So I started researching more, and I bumped into, obviously, Dr. Baker and all of his carnivore people, and just seeing so many people that had issues like myself started improving. And I had some candida issues as well, and so I'm like, you know what, there's something to it. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start an experiment. I'm going to eliminate them and see what I do. And then my husband's like, what? Like, you're just, he thought it was so funny. And, you should have seen his face the first time I had like a ribeye, or like he was just like, man, I don't think I would ever get to see you eat steak again. And, they were taking pictures of me and everything. It was so funny. But so, yes, so I was like, okay, no more veggies. And I'm just going to focus on the animal kingdom. And it was still like very ketogenic diet, which was, that's just something that I'm going to continue to do forever, because like I said, I continue to research, and I love that there's just so many physicians now, and so many doctors nutritionist, and there's just so much more information. And I just, I delved into it, and I keep, learning and sharing and, and tweaking my own experiment on myself. And so I want to say, like, even after the first week, no issues. Like all those symptoms improved. Everything.
So what were you actually eating, darling?
So I would have like eggs. I always have eggs, but I would have like started to implement like steak and ground beef, and pretty much that was like my 80%. I still have like chicken and fish, but I was definitely focusing on all the meat I could eat. And I was eating until I was hungry, and that was another thing I noticed, that I was kind of like not as hungry maybe until 11:30, and then I wasn't hungry again until probably like 6. And so I had it was amazing. I was like, wow, I'm not hungry at all, and I was just like so efficient. My energy was so stable. I started going to the restroom normally. I mean, and when you understand that with fiber, yes, you're gonna have ginormous. Sorry for the disgusting topic. You're gonna have ginormous poops because your body is trying to get rid of this fiber. So you're gonna have just a larger volume of
Yeah.
And so and so, but when you understand with protein, you pretty much, it's very you digest it and very well, and so it goes everywhere, and so you have very little of it that gets digested, so you're just not going to have this a lot. So I was fine with that. I was like, that's perfect. And so I've been regular. I have, it's rare that I don't go once a day, and so that was really a surprise. And I was like, wow. It was like, lo and behold, the moment of that I've been looking for decades, for as long as I can remember. And I was like, wow, it was so simple. And I knew, I knew the benefits of low carb and keto and ketogenic, and how, this was such an optimal diet. But when you get these, like I said, this bombardment of society, and like whole grains and this and that and plant-based, and it's crazy, and it's so, can't believe that it's still the guidelines that we have, and it's making us sicker, and it's not helping us. And so that, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to tell my experience to those others, people who might, be struggling like myself. And that's kind of why I just started to just make posts and videos and, things like that. And I've received with a lot of opposition, and oh my gosh, it was very surprising to have just so many harsh comments that I was like, wow, because, vegan people kind of consider themselves, they're very peaceful and they're loving, very loving and understanding. Well, no, they were very vile, and like I was, cussed at, and, how dare you eat an animal? But, I couldn't explain. I would just say, look, you are in this path, and you might be, on an earlier path, or maybe it hasn't affected you, but this is what I'm sharing. And, I will definitely look after myself before, the animals, and that might sound bad, but I said, because my children need a mom, and I just want to be the best person for them. And, if it means eating an animal, I'm going to do that. And
okay, can you kind of just tell us about what other improvements you noticed besides the the bloating disappearing? What about all the mental side, sleeping? Did all this kind of start to shift too for you?
Oh, so I started getting the most deepest sleep, like just I could sleep just very deep, and I would wake up refreshed. And even without caffeine, because I was able to wean myself out of caffeine, and it was so amazing. Just I was wake up bright-eyed and ready for the day, and that was just amazing, because before I would just be like, oh my gosh, like I'm, and I was just woke up, and like I was like super mom, and everybody was like, my husband was like, what is wrong? Like, you're just like everywhere, you're doing everything. And I was like, dude, it's this diet. Like, it's this lifestyle. And then my hair started growing, which was amazing. My lashes. So I had lost my lashes. I forgot to mention. So I lost my lashes. They were very patchy. I had to get lash extensions. And I took them off, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to let them grow. And with keto, it got a little bit better. But as soon as I started hitting carnivore hard, oh my gosh, they all grew back. And I'm getting a lot of just new hair, and it's like volume and just length, and it's shinier. Like, I don't know, like before when I was doing it, it was very dry and like just very dead. I don't know. It was, and you know what? I haven't improved. Like my face is, I don't want to say chubbier, but I'm happy because I've filled out, but in a good way. Like there's fat on my face, and it, you know, I actually look younger because, you know, that's correlates to youthful looks. So not as bony, and like, you know, you could see my, you know, this part, this, it was really bad, like all that.
I did see you before and after photo. Yeah, it's this kind of that vegan look that most people and I have, those big doe eyes and the kind of, you know, like you're saying, and when you start to feel the structure of your face fill out, it kind of makes you realize that babies, and this is my feeling, that when they're young, they miss out on this proper growth of facial and jaw structure, which is, you know,
and as you can see, like I have a pretty wide jaw, and so all that has, I swear, it was lost. Like I had this narrow, like my bones, I felt like they were just weak, very weak. And then another thing I want to mention, I work out, I do lift weights and all that. So it was very hard for me to gain muscle, like on a vegan diet, and so I obviously had to like get, you know, like a pea protein and supplement and all these things. It was still very, very hard. And so, and when I would take a vacation, like go to see my family or out of town, or whatever, and I would stop, like it would all disappear. It was so fast, and I was like, oh my gosh, like all of my gains, like they go so quickly. And so just eating this way, and I've had like several surgeries that I've had this year and things like that, and or like visiting my family, and my muscles are still there. And so that was so amazing. Like my abs, just my shoulders, my, you know, just your entire body, like you're more muscular with eating protein, with eating animal protein. And so that was an amazing surprise because, and, you know, pleasant surprise, because I was like, wow, I don't have to rush back to the gym and feel like I lost it all, you know? So, and another thing, I had a lot more strength, and without having to take pre-workouts and things like that, I would just go in and have an amazing workout, have this whole energy. And like I said, I was just like this all day until the end of the day. And I even have 2 jobs. Sometimes I work at a pediatric clinic in the evening, and then I write, and then I do my acting projects. And so sometimes I would work 7 days a week straight.
Wow.
And sometimes I would have to be up at 5 a.m, and some days we had long shoots, and some days they ended at 2 a.m. And so, but I had never felt so amazing. I was like, I would have like like all the other actors, they're drinking coffee, and I'm just good. I was there, and they're like, how are you so like peppy? And just like, I'm like, it's my diet, guys, I tell you. So a lot of people started asking me, and, you know, I've gotten a lot of messages, and they're like, okay, well, and because, you know, I'm a mom, and they're like, okay, well, she's older, you know, and here we are, these young actors, you know, or just in general, just younger people. And they're like, wow, she, you know, she looks healthy. She has all this energy. She's doing all these things. And here we are, like 20 years younger, and we're barely awake. And so I just, you know, so that's why I've been sharing, and I've gotten a lot of questions and just a lot of interest, and several, like several publications, the Daily Mail, like, they contacted me about sharing my story, and then this other place from Spain, and just a lot. I've just gotten a lot of people, and then contacted with you, which is amazing because you know, I feel like I feel like I need to educate people, and I'm not telling them do this. No, I want them to question and look for their, you know, the answers, because, you know, I don't want them to say, okay, well, do what I'm doing. No. I'm sharing my experience because this is what's working for me, but I want to have them question their own lifestyle, their own choices, and because it's out there, the information is out there. You just have to scratch a little, and there's, oh my gosh, a whole wealth of, you know, information. And
absolutely, and I'm a kind of a person too that tends to want to instill in people the ability to be able to really connect back to themselves, not just connect back, but listen and act on those messages they're getting, because most people override them, you know. I think perhaps maybe you can explain this further. Do you think the biggest mind screw, I'll say, for a lot of people is when they hear your story and how meat's healing you? Do you think that's the biggest thing, because we've been told the complete opposite, that meat is toxic, it's the villain, it's
Yes.
acidic, constipating?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I even have family members who are like, oh my God, like you're gonna get a heart attack, and they don't know the information. And yes, I can find studies and show them, and that's the thing that's so, I guess, frustrating in a way, because we're going against this like monster that's, you know, just has very deep roots, and it's so hard to like change. But I feel like the more of us, you know, I want to call us case studies because that's what we are, but case studies add value. You know, I came from obviously I have a master in science, and you know, I always do single subject research design on my, you know, on my patients. And so this is what it is. And I said, okay, this is one person, but yet you see this is working. And so I don't, you know, this adds value, because the more case studies there are, there's, you know, more and more and more. And that adds to that research that is showing that we are making a difference, and this is working, and this is, you know, changing. And hopefully it'll, you know, make some attention, and maybe they'll reconsider that perhaps what we have in place now is wrong and it's not working. And that's kind of what I want to see happen, to get just a different perspective. And I think this year, was it the Diabetes Association in the US, they actually agreed, and they said that that low carb for diabetes is good. And so finally, I knew that, but it took a long time for them to catch up. But it's good.
Well, your family must also see that you're back and you've got your focus, your know, your whole attitude, your whole, you know, demeanor about life. You're feeling happier. That in itself, you know, they can see the contrast, right? And especially your husband, he was like, "Oh, I got my wife back," you know.
Yes, and it's funny because he's like, you know what, he's like, I want to do what you do. So we've started eating a lot more meat, and so he's doing like low carb. And then my mom is like 100% low carb, you know, keto. My twin sister, which she's like, you know what? She's like, that I will do. My other sister, so my niece, my nephew, like my entire family is now like ketogenic, and so it's kind of awesome because you see, and I've had so many coworkers as well that have jumped on, and I just have this one close friend who just showed me her before and after picture, and I was just like amazed. She has diabetes, and like you know, she had gained all this weight, and now she's like slimming down, and she's like, I feel amazing. And so, you know, I'm just happy that my journey and my experience is helping others. And so, and I have also had so many vegans contact me that they're like, oh my God, I'm having the same issues. And so I said, look, I'm not going to tell you to just look at yourself, look at, you know, and then maybe question it, because I said, it's not, veganism is not the best life like everybody claims it is. I said, it definitely is not. And so I said, just know that there's deficiencies, and that, you know, but I didn't even have to get to that conversation. They were telling me all the issues they had, and I've had so many, just floods of emails, messages, and a lot of them converting back to me in this time frame.
Yeah.
It's like a trend.
It's like you've given them permission to be really honest about what was going on. When you can do it and provide that space, you're not judging them.
Yes.
Then they feel they can open up and say, yeah, actually, I've been craving chicken or egg or whatever. You know, they admit it. Yeah.
Well, and they're like, oh my gosh,
what we need, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And sometimes they're like, what should I tell my family or my friends? I said, look, just, you know, I do help them and provide some references and things like that. I said, but it's your choice. I said, if, you know, you just have to be real and tell them, you know what, this isn't working for me. This is what I have to do for myself. And then just take a day, you know, a day at a time. And that's all you can do. And so hopefully that it will spread and, you know, more can awake. And it's kind of like a veil is lifted. And it's funny because I'm very spiritual, and I feel like people, many spiritual people kind of, I don't know, they align to the vegan diet because it's like it's compassion to animals and to all living beings. And yet I have found that being carnivorous, you know, and ketogenic, my spirituality actually has improved, and I am very connected to everything. And it's like, I feel like I'm in this high, like my frequency is super high, and I'm just super happy and joyous. and I'm connecting to all these people, and there's like just like this love and light around me, and people just kind of like this magnet that just, they're like, wow, like I love how you are. And so like I've just had like strangers come up and like just start talking to me and things like that. And I just, my meditations and all of that is just, it's amazing. And so I feel super connected. And so I tell others sometimes I fear, maybe you're fearing that if you're going to eat an animal, you're not going to be, I said, no, this at least for me has been just an amazing experience all over and all around. So I'm definitely like, reaping the benefits of the lifestyle. And this is why like I am speaking out. And, even though I'm getting a lot of hate, I've had some people made videos of me and things like that. But, I don't care. I was just like, you know what, it doesn't bother me because I just know where I am in my path, and just
That's
I
right.
them well. And I just hope that they will find,
And I think this is what's really going to have more of an impact on people, not so much the science as such that, that plant-based is this, and this percentage is showing that. I mean, really, it really doesn't connect to our own reality and direct experience. And when you or anyone starts making changes and eating, pardon me, bringing in more animal foods, and seeing the effect and feeling the effect on them, nothing can really discount that, really, can it? So and I think that is really all the evidence you need. I mean, that's all the evidence we can really judge our own reality and what's happening to us. So I think this is going to really the more people come out and speak about it, it's going to not only encourage other people but also get them to have more faith and trust in their own direct experiences and what happens to them, as opposed to data, information, science, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And again, like you say, I can really concur with you with connecting more with nature and feeling that stronger. I know, just listening to you talk, it's there's so many incredible things that happen that really flip everything you've been taught upside down. And you would never have expected it. I even had things like lung capacity increased. And I'm thinking, what? Unusual things that you would not expect, that's come from the fact that you're being now nourished with essential nutrients that you weren't getting. And what I love about you is the fact that, you're, again, people who question, challenge things, and also, you don't necessarily have to go into this thing with a health problem, but most people, and because of what's happening with the food now, and I really feel there's going to be a bit of a gut apocalypse, because, the modern day veganism is very different to when, I'm 62, but when I was doing vegan, the food wasn't interfered with as much, particularly the grains. And I find a lot of vegans are eating a lot more grain heavy, bean heavy, fake vegan foods, and very unbalanced. And these are the things that are targeting the gut, the glyphosates, the GMOs, and everything. So I think we're going to see a lot more these kind of problems. And it's so great that you're speaking about it. And I think we're going to need a lot of people like ourselves who are brave enough to speak out. But not only that, committed to not letting what's happened to us happen to the younger generations, because I feel a lot of the vegans too are very, very easily influenced by the ideology, the propaganda, the animal thing, and they don't do enough research on our ancestral connection, biology, and they discount it.
Exactly.
So
that's one group I'm going to start targeting. There's a father who came up to me in these groups, and they're like, please, you need to make a video about you and target the young. Like, I had my daughter and their friends are all vegans, and they look so bad and they're unhealthy. And this dad was almost in tears, and I said, you know what, yes, I know, and I will, because I know this is something, it's urgent, because I know there's several girls that I've connected with on Instagram, and there's one that from very teenage years, she was probably 16. She was a vegan from like 16 to like 25, and she ended up developing Hashimoto's disease, losing like her teeth. Like so many ailments that you cannot believe. And she's reversing this with a ketogenic carnivore diet. And so there's several names that so many from Instagram that I've connected, and I will share along with you so you are able to get their stories because they're fascinating. And
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the same things. It's like a revolving topic. It's like you just see this, and so a lot of them are speaking up because of the same issue. These young girls are to where like they're lost their period, they might not be able to have children, and it's very sad that you follow this path and then you're not able to thrive. And I tell people, yes, you can survive being vegan, but you're not going to thrive, and that's the main difference. You want to be the best version of yourself. Like why fall short and just survive?
And it's often not easy with that age group because they do think they're infallible and they're and that's because you're older and that happened and it's going to work for me. But I think all of us who've been on the vegan diet for a long time, myself too, over 20 years and vegetarian, we're all going to be able to impart our experiences. But the point is, I think when we've got so much mental, this research is showing now there's Alzheimer's and the brain shrinkage and so forth that,
yes.
You also put up. And I mean, that often doesn't even register with vegans. They haven't had this access. And they're focusing on these other supposedly virtues. But
yes.
What's going on internally in your body? It's like people would say to me, God, Katya, you look so amazing for your age, but inside my body's been crumbling,
Yes.
and the structural things. And like you were saying, the thing is, like you, I'm compelled also to prevent these things happening to younger people, what happened to us. And a lot of these things will be irreversible for them, So it's something that I'm sure you never thought you'd be at this point in your life, and myself too. So yeah.
You almost feel like you're dumb, and you feel dumb, and you feel like, oh my gosh, why did I ever do this to myself? And I think, well, this was a learning experience, but that's why more than ever I'm passionate about sharing and not just keeping it, because a lot of people are, at first I was like, had all these vegan followers, and of course it was like World War III, it was very catalyst. And so, but a friend said, well, you must be doing something right for getting all this attention. You're changing something, and that's always, that's always something good. And so I'm going to keep going forward with this, and there are some like more and more like I said, data and documentaries. I don't know if you've ever seen the Perfect Human Diet by Hunt, I believe is, and very interesting. His father died of heart attack, and then he had a heart attack, but he's like, well, I'm supposed to be eating this plant-based grains and low fat, and yet I'm heart attack. So what is the perfect human diet? And he goes for 10 years, he researches, goes all over the world, based in technology, anthropology, archaeology, science, name it. And he ended up finding that ketogenic diet was the way to go. So they have it like on Amazon Prime. If you want to check it out, it's pretty wonderful. And so so there's more and more people. And again, it's yes. So I
all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, and I think too, your mum's a very wise woman. She's probably around the same age as me. Like we grew up in a time where a lot of mothers knew the value of giving their kids, organ meats and so forth when they were young, and brains, kidneys, whatever. But these things now are people starting to realise, gone away from that. And the kids, even when I was young, that kind of reality didn't exist for veganism. But everyone looked well. Everyone had beautiful faces and good development in their bodies. And so, we've really got an issue and a crisis that I think is about to come. And it's so great that we can share and speak out more. And I'm certainly want to, share your message and put that out. And then if we keep doing this more and more people speak about their direct experiences, then it's going to add weight to the the value of not only listening to ourselves, but going back to our own biology, listening to, when we do crave these foods, it's not a sign of that we need to detox or whatever. It's our body's own instinctual programming, if you like, telling us it needs these things.
It was amazing how you say that, because I feel like when I started eating meat, I was so hungry and I couldn't stop. Like, it was one of those things. My body was just asking. I just have to have some. Husband like, you're gonna eat the whole meat that we had for the entire family. Like, I don't care. I'm so hungry. Like, it was just like a switch, and my body was asking for it. And there's you can only take so long of rejecting your body signals. And I was getting the signs everywhere, and I very, like I told you, very intuitive. I would get these signs that were so concrete, and I was like, okay, guys. I was like, look up. All right, guys, I'm listening. I'm gonna listen to you. Because sometimes, you just ignore that very, the deeper truth. And it was telling me, and I just kept repressing it until it was screaming at me. And I said, okay, into the hospital. And I was like, okay, that's the way I was gonna.
Well, you certainly look fantastic, and I've seen your other photos, and you look fabulous, and you feel great. And I mean, that's all the evidence we need, isn't it? And it's all, it's such a gift when we get this, and we see, and we connect everything, and we can think clearer, and we can sleep better, because, as you know, for a woman, deep restful sleep is everything, and when these things start happening, So I just thank you so much for sharing your time with us and speaking to you, because you've got a great story, and I certainly want to share it in the groups and whatnot. Yes. I mean, we're all going to be doing more interviews and sharing our own stories, and I think it's wonderful. So so thanks for doing that for today. Is there anything else you want to add, or things you want to kind of?
Yes, just one more thing. I do want to add, like, for me, I found my holy grail. I was telling you, like, for me, like, the one thing that I'm thriving, not just surviving. Like, this is the thing that I was looking for decades and decades ago. And so just to share this to other women, as a female, with hormones to think of, and body, and, just mood and intelligence and, brain function and all that, like, this is what has making me be 150% the best version of me. And so that in itself, has to have some value, because I know a lot of women want to feel like that and want to find something that, you could control your life and do it all. And now, like, all my dreams, I'm like, I'm going to do them this year, because I have the energy, and I'm not sick, and I have the, my brain is at its best, and I'm just so efficient in everything, as a mother, as a friend, as a, as a spouse, as a colleague, in every realm that I'm a part of. I'm my best self. And that's what I want to keep doing. And that's why I want to keep sharing my story, because, before, when I was vegan, I never shared those, because I wasn't thriving. They just knew I was vegan, and I would say, oh yes, I'm vegan, this and that. But I was not having these just, euphoric, moments, to where I'm in this, like, high, I'm in this high all the time, just from eating this way and just reaping the benefits of this lifestyle. And so that's just my ending note, that, because people are, oh, well, yeah, she looks good, but how does she feel? Oh, I feel amazing. And getting to the deepest truth, of myself.
And being honest about it too. Just another thing too, before we go, is I just want to ask you about cost and supplementation, because a lot of women will be asking me, and they've asked me, is it, bringing in animal foods, the costs, what have you actually found in relation to what you were spending before, like even supplementation? You're not taking any supplement, you don't need to, really. I mean, I know I was taking a truckload too, which I've cut. But what about the costs and so forth? How do you find that in comparison to?
Actually, I want to say that we're keeping kind of a similar budget. And sometimes I think I would spend more with my vegan diet and supplement. And so now it's simple and basic, and I'm able to find good deals, and, like, getting smart about shopping. And really, it's been, even for feeding a family of 5, and it hasn't been like a huge spike. And so I tell people, what, it'll be kind of the same, just be smart of shopping. But, I buy tons of eggs, and when I can buy steak, I have ground beef, and it's fine, just as long as, you have chicken and fish, just be, like, I'm flexible of what deals I have at the supermarket, and I'll eat that week. And so I don't make it too complicated. And really, I just eat very simply, and I feel like I even would say that the cost has even been a little less, to be honest. And
that's great.
gosh, the supplementation was killing me. I was even having to buy B12 shots, getting B12 shots in addition to just the supplementation, because I wasn't enough. And even
yeah. Just another thing too, I'd like to just put in too about locally sourcing our food. I think this has really given us a lot of a wake-up call to it, and this is something people find hard to conceive when you're vegan, but you really start to realize, and of course obviously myself being older, I knew that a lot of, the way we obtained our food, there was a period of time when this whole factory farming was nothing like it was, and we would get locally sourced things, and from, whether it be farmers or people. So how do you feel about that too? Are you kind of feeling more drawn to seek out local people, support people, and boycott the factory farming and put your money into the local farms and so forth?
Yes. So I actually live in the suburbs of Chicago, and it's called Plainfield, and luckily there's so many farms around here. And even there's this one grocery store who will source from the local farmers, and that's there's several farms that I actually go to get eggs and things like that. And then when I can't, I go to this one grocery store which I know, and it says which farm they're coming from. And I love that because the farmers take it to that store, and they get sold, and it's it's fresh from the farm, and visit the farm, and it's amazing because that they're treated well, and they're it's just you feel more at ease with buying these type of animal products because that they were treated well, and I love that. So I'm lucky that I live in a town such as this, because I feel like certain areas might have a hard time, but I feel like, well, you can always find there's several websites that you can visit depending on the country, but I know like US has like it'll tell you like based on where you live, and it'll connect you with farms, and you can either order from them, they could ship to you, you can go pick them up. So they have a lot of these programs that are working for a lot of people, and so that's definitely a second option for people that might not be able to have a farm like I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I said, I think that's a statement in itself. A lot of the vegan argument is about supporting factory farming, but that if you can show them that by actually boycotting it and buying somewhere else, you're actually having more impact as opposed to protesting and doing all that kind of stuff, because it just really doesn't help the situation.
Yes. We have like, I feel like we have like a similar ideal, I think like we all the people that I've talked to, like carnivorous people even, and ketogenic, they are trying to eat this way and try to get this type of message across too, that, we are sourcing, local farmers, and try to connect with this type of, getting our food this way, rather than, you're right, from this factory farming, which is horrible and nobody wants it, So yes, hopefully that we can get more push in that direction as well.
Fantastic. And great to see your family thriving too, and you're thriving, and we'll just go on, and it's going to be fascinating how things unfold in the next, even this year, I think there'll be a lot more veils lifted. I think we're all feeling it. It's going to come down, the truths are going to be revealed on a lot of things through our experiences are contradicting what they're saying to us, So it's going to be a very exciting time, but also, it's obviously set you on a path and like a mission, not mission, but kind of like even a career path as such, to bring that in. Is that something that you feel very called to do more so, or do you feel like it's more just your own personal thing, or?
No, I always share. Yes, it's always
be more of a voice for
like
yourself.
a light, like that quote. You can, just lighting a candle, and how that light can be transformed to another candle, until everybody has light. And so that's, to me, is like sharing your light and see where it goes, and just lighting it all up. And so that to me is like, that's why I love to connect with like people like you, to where we can share and keep lifting the veils and lighting it up. And so that's my main.
Well, I'll talk with you a bit later because I actually feel to have a summit, and I'd love to have you and a couple of other women I've got in mind who are, and you know them, who are, who sort of cover the spectrum of ages, because I think that's important. When you're a bit older, you've got a whole different,
Yes.
and not necessarily the length of time you've been vegan, but certain things become more important. Your structure, your body, how's it going to take you into your older years?
Yes.
But at the same time, we've got younger people, having these chronic illnesses and conditions that we used to only associate with getting, as being age-related, when in actual fact they're not. So I think it would be great for people to be able to have a spectrum of women from various time, various stories that they share that everyone can relate to,
Exactly.
So that's something we perhaps could, get rolling here too would be awesome.
And I feel like young women don't think of their brains, and you're just like, I just want to look good, and
absolutely.
And like I said, at the end of my vegan period, I was like pre-diabetic, and then inflammation, and then Mia was like, my brain, I just want to be happy again. I just want to be this, and of course my brain was shrinking, you just mentioned with the studies, there's studies about the brains, and I had no idea. Like I told my twin sister, if I would have known this, I would have not ever become vegan, because nobody knows this. And so that's why I'm trying to share, because it's something like they always glamorize veganism, but really they don't tell you, no one tells you all of the deficits, and so I'm glad that so many people are being real, and no matter the opposition and no matter what people are saying and going against the status quo, to share their stories and just prove them wrong.
Well, there's so much we can talk about, but as I'm saying that, the thing is, like, the brain thing is a very big thing, because, it's 80% fat, and we can't, like, if we cut ourselves open, we've got the same, internal anatomy as other animals on the planet, and we've got the same nutritional needs. But I don't think, as I said, the far-reaching consequences of malnutrition to the brain is going to be catastrophic, because already, that was predicted with Alzheimer's, and I've written a couple of books, and I did say this, it was even forecast that dementia, cognitive impairment, and Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these things, neurological problems, are going to escalate something terribly. And if we're hearing young people now who are having difficulty stringing words together, their memory is starting to fail them, they can't get some clear thinking going, they're not motivated. This to me is everything. Of course, we know too that's all related to the gut as well. Everything is connected. So I think it's a wonderful message to be sharing, and to just be bringing it to people's attention, because I think the more we do this, we already know, we've seen vegans, from hearing stories of other ex-vegans, start to, it's impacted deeply on them, and they're starting to go, admit to themselves, this is happening to me, and it started to switch them. So, and it's not about, going to this side and that side. It's about preserving your ability and to express what the gifts you've come here to do in a body that's going to support you to do that. And if these things start failing and breaking down, it's not going to happen, and I think that is a big thing.
I want to add, I work with special needs students, and so their diet is so poor. And they eat these grains and low fats, and their development is just so limited, and they're verbal, and we talk about it as a department. We're like, it's like an epidemic. There's so many more children that they're not developing, they're not talking, they're having delays, and I just go back to, like, well, they're nutritionally, their nutrition is horrible. They're not getting the brain food. They're not, they're not developing, and so that has to have just a huge impact on these children. And so we're just creating this society, this generation that is coming up so deficient in so many areas, and just these young kids are already on insulin shots and all these heavy medicated, and it's just horrible. Like, what I see on a daily basis, I just, and there are some families, very little bit, that know that diet correlates to this, but it's very minimal, because even the physicians are not even addressing that, and these kids really eat, and it's just the same problem that we're this misguided medicine that we have, so I just do what I can, and but that's why I speak out, because we have some work to do, and more than anything, just to bring it out, and just hopefully it'll touch another person's soul and heart, and maybe they will too realize that perhaps there's something that we need to change.
Absolutely. So on that note, thank you so much for sharing and speaking with us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we'll connect again.
Yes, so, I'm so happy, and I thank you for this time chatting with you. And anytime you need me, I'm.
I'll let you know. So I'll let you end the call now, and
right.
Yeah. And thank you for everybody for watching. And I hope that you can have some takeaways, some nuggets, some gems that are going to help you to perhaps look at yourself, and maybe if you've been getting signals to bring in some different foods that you've kind of been resisting. Well, I hope that this encourages you to do it too. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Love and light to all.
Thank you. Love to you, darling. Thanks very much. Okay.
Bye.